Hello and welcome everybody to another entry uh, to Exchange, BCSDA Exchange for November, the month of November, and an action-packed afternoon for you all. Welcome to those who are joining. For those of you who don't know me, which hopefully is nobody, Andrew Petersen is my name. I'm the CEO of the Business Council for Sustainable Development Australia and all-around bottle washer in the household of the Petersen family. Sorry, it was a weekend. What can I tell you? And in November's edition, we've got some really exciting big news to share with you and hear from our, almost our newest member, not quite anymore, but almost our newest member. And they are coming actually from offshore, which is even more exciting. But what I want to do first is very, very quickly just go through a couple of items that I want to make sure that you are all au fait with because it's all happening. Can I tell you? All right, that's what I wanted to find. And in that, I will open Insider. And in opening, let me also acknowledge that I'm broadcasting to you today from the land of the Camaragal people and acknowledge their elders past, present and emerging, and particularly welcome any Aboriginal or Torres Strait Islanders who are joining us today. Okay, for those of you who haven't yet read Insider as at this morning, please do so because much is being reported that is absolutely hot off the press, totally germane to you all, not the least of which is we're very excited for you that we are now able to receive membership payments by credit card should you wish to do so rather than through the arcane, painful process of doing it through EFTs. We know that this is becoming a relevant matter for you, and we've had one of our biggest members recently actually encourage us to sign up to Stripe, which is the new platform that we use through our invoices. So for those of you who are coming up for your renewals, you can avail yourself of this new facility through the receipt of your Xero invoice. You'll be able to just click on the bottom, I think it's on the bottom of the invoice itself, and be able to pay via your credit card should you wish to do so. For those of you who have been asking questions in relation to the education platform, it is still a bit of a work in progress. I have seen another draft thanks to some great work that one of our interns is doing at the moment, and we will be sharing that with you probably next week. And what I mean by what am I showing you? It is a compendium of all of the available WBCSD programs, courses that are out there, that those are both for fee and also for free. Some of you have asked the question, quite rightly, are the members of BCSD Australia able to access that which the WBCSD members can access? The answer is yes and no. And that's for one of you anyway, and I think that's particularly Claire. I haven't got a definitive answer for you in relation to the question you asked about one of them, but hopefully I will have that answer for you and be able to put it into Insider for next week, along with the new table or spreadsheet that will be available for you as members to have a look at. What are the programs? How are they relevant? Are they at an advanced level? Are they at a beginner level? Do they cost anything? What's the value in doing them? Do they have a CPD component, for example? And how do you go about registering for them? So this is the first of not just the WBCSD, but we will also be talking about our new member in a minute, who will also be working with us to put up not only their education offerings or programs or links to their programs, but also that which they track as well. In terms of engagement, thank you to those who've been coming along to the flurry of activity over the month of October. If you've missed it, you can go and look on YouTube for our landscape webinar, which happened week before last. You can also go and now look at the BCSDA and World Benchmarking Alliance sprint session that we did last week on driving corporate accountability through benchmarking. And there is a report inside BCSDA intelligence in the corporate performance area on reporting matters, which was also launched last week. I don't have yet a copy of the webinar, but when I get that, I will be circulating it to you. But for those members who are able to access reporting matters, the launch of the Reporting Matters report for 2025 is out. There is a link to the report itself in this week's Insider if you want to have a look at it. But if you also want to hear of the insights that were given by WBCSD, Radley Yelder, and about 5 of the member companies of WBCSD around the future of reporting, it's well worth reading it through Insider, which hopefully will be for next week, because there's some really interesting insights into things like the what's the word I'm looking for? The decreasing use of voluntary reporting platforms, including GRI, which is really quite interesting. And I know that Marianne, for example, who's a great champion and exponent and expert on GRI in Australia, will find this intelligence quite interesting. It's not true that it's fallen off a cliff. It's just that it has, what's the word I'm looking for? Eased off. But the expectation is, because of the changes that are being made, particularly in the European reporting landscape, it could actually come back because there are companies then that are not covered by the mandatory reporting process. Now, that is going to be interesting in terms of its impact in Australia, for example. So that's one particular case study. We've got Exchange today, but the big news I wanted to highlight was, please, if you do have any interest in what's going on at or in Belém for COP30, then my encouragement to you is to do 2 things. The first is obviously to register for the 2 events that are at the ungodly hour of 7 a.m. on this Friday, and then the ungodly hour of 7 a.m. on the following Friday. And why is that, Andrew? Because that's 5 p.m. in Belém. And therefore, we are catching up with our colleagues from WBCSD, with Women Business Coalition, Ilona Miller from Gilbert and Toburn, and a couple of others I hope that are going to accept and dial in and give us their insight into what's going on the ground at Belém. I can report, as at this morning, I found this hilarious, the blue zone is still not fully constructed, and they're due to start in 10 hours. The formal negotiations start in 10 hours in the blue zone, but it's not yet fully constructed. But hope springs eternal. And there's already this evening, 11 o'clock our time, a briefing by the International Chamber of Commerce, which is the official private sector IGO or intergovernmental NGO representative of the private sector, is going to be briefing a lot of us, including, I think, myself and Murray Griffin, who's on this call, because we're both virtual participants to it. So, and we'll come to the next bit, which is TLDR. If you have a burning desire to know what's going on at the COP, then register through the registration form of TLDR. I'd make no apologies now, but there will be a lot of content coming through. I know a lot of you are already exhausted by the amount of TLDR information that comes through on a variety of topics, but you can bet your bottom dollar that the UNFCCC negotiations are going to be fascinating. And the best way to keep up to date on an immediate basis is to register through on the registration form for TLDR, because you will then get everything that we feed through to you via that particular format through that particular process. Of course, all of those reports will then go into the weekly newsletter in any event. So if you just want to keep up at the end of the week, then you'll be able to do so that way. Also, don't forget that YouTube enables you to go and have a look at our reports from the last Road to Belém on the 22nd of October. And of course, as I said before, the sprint series that we're doing with the We Mean Business, with World Benchmarking Alliance. All right. Now, let us now welcome Eco-Business Australia. Oh, no, not Eco-Business. What am I saying? Sorry, Jason and Meaghan, I didn't mean that. In point of fact, I should have left up Insider because we have a new segment, Insider, to more properly and appropriately announce our new members. And Eco-Business has joined the family, the community of the BCSDA. And with that, we're very excited to welcome a new father into the family, which is Jason. He's the recipient of a wonderful bubbly bouncing boy in the last few days. I think that's right, Jason. And also Meaghan See. And they're coming to you not from continental Australia. They're actually coming from without. I think they're both coming from, it's certainly coming from Asia, and I think they're both coming from Singapore. But I'd really like to welcome in particular Meaghan, who's going to share with us who Eco-Business is, what do they do, and then we'll talk about the new working relationship that we have with BCSD Australia and Eco-Business. So welcome, Meaghan, if you want to, and hopefully microphone is working, and look forward to hearing your thoughts. There you go. Excellent.
Great.
Welcome.
Thanks so much, Andrew, and thanks for the warm welcome. You're quite right. Jason and I were not based in Australia. I'm based in Singapore, and Jason is based in Malaysia, and he is a new dad. I think 2 weeks ago was the birth of his baby boy. But thank you for the warm welcome, and thank you everyone for joining. I know it's lunch hour? Is it 1 p.m. over there? So hopefully all of you have got your lunches at your desk and coffee as well. But yeah, just to give an introduction about Eco-Business, we are a media intelligence platform that's focused on sustainable development. If you have not already come onto our platform, please you can just click around while I'm talking you through what we do. We've been around since 2009, so it's a pretty long time. But as we know, I think this topic really only came up in importance and in boardroom agendas, I think in the past, 8, 9 years, 10 years maybe. So that's when we started to grow as well. So on the one hand, we have a content editorial team that produces all the news and policy developments, globally from a sustainably focused lens. I oversee the commercial partnership side of things, of which involves working with partners on branded content pieces, of which we do in various multimedia formats. Your written articles, your podcasts, as well as video as well. And we also do events, on which maybe I'll just speak about a little bit more in detail later after this, where we do our own flagship forum events, as well as very customized, events that we work exclusively together with partners. And then we also have an intelligence arm, our ESG intelligence arm that does research advisory and training. Other than that, we also have a charity organization called EB Impact. They focus on youth and education. So while I'm based in Singapore, we've got teams in Malaysia and Philippines and China and Thailand as well as Indonesia. So pretty much very Asia Pacific focused work that we do. But yeah, that's kind of what we do in a very quick nutshell. Andrew, should I talk a little bit more? Or do you want to?
Sorry, I'd muted and therefore I couldn't find that. I really, I'd welcome, because COP30 is the issue du jour at the moment. How does Eco-Business track what's going on in climate negotiations? Not necessarily this particular COP, but certainly how it tracks. Does it have people on ground? Does it have a vast network as organisations like us do that tap into that? How do you bring to your readers what's going on from an Asian perspective in relation to COPs?
Yeah, so it's a mix of different things. I mean, our team is not big at all, right? So maybe the editorial team takes up about half of our team, which is maybe about seven across the region. So they are based in the various countries of which we are in. But we also have our region or our global network of contributors as well as reporters as well. So every day, we receive a lot of updates from our network of correspondents as well as op-ed contribution as well, of which we'll take our editorial team will then take in turn and see which issues are the ones that we should be covering. And of course, with COP, we actually have our writer from Malaysia who's there, who's covering COP for us.
Okay, so that's quite comprehensive. And the from my perspective as the CEO of this organisation, Eco-Business has been around certainly since I've been the CEO, and that's a fairly long time now. What have you noticed about the readership interest in topics for Eco-Business, and how has
Mm,
Eco-Business responded to that reader interest going forward?
mm,
Because obviously in the Asian market is very different to what European business interests are, as distinct from, say, the Americas. What have you noticed
mm.
are the trends in relation to readership interest in your sphere?
Mm. Yeah, so maybe just giving you a bit of a background as to who our readers are. So I mean, we have the readers and subscribers, right? So subscribers are those who subscribe to our weekly global newsletter, of which we have about over 100,000 of which I think two-thirds sits in Asia Pacific. So as I mentioned earlier, very Asia Pacific focused, although we do have, quite a good number of, outside of Asia Pacific readers as well.
Yeah.
So I mean, in Asia, I mean, I would say a lot of the concerns are, what the other side of the world, Europe, US are doing in terms of regulation and how that will affect them. As we know, regulatory risk is something that a lot of businesses are concerned about in terms of having to respond to requirements and what they need their suppliers to also comply with in order for them to comply with regulations. So we see a lot of interest from readers on that, as well as I think finance. As we hold a big sustainable finance forum every
Yeah.
year, of which we just completed our round of. This year we did it across 6 countries.
Yeah.
So Hong Kong, Malaysia, Indonesia, Philippines, Thailand, and Singapore just rounded up last year. So sustainable finance is a big topic for us. Where we gather, your government, your policymakers, your business leaders, civic society organizations as well, all in one room to talk about what we see as key and pertinent in specific localities. So with that, I think transition finance is a big thing, alongside transition risk as well. So we seek to break down these issues in the room, as well as then follow up with content, and we also are putting together in kind of report as well,
Yeah.
that collates the findings from each of our 6 regional forums into one document where people can just take back and kind of take the time to decipher all of that, and hopefully everything makes sense to them by the end of that. Obviously, this is a big unraveling topic, so we seek to build on that every year that we have this specific sustainable finance forum,
Yeah.
which, by the way, we'll be bringing to Australia next year. So Jason and I will be working on that,
During
and with
COP31 preparation, we hope.
uh,
Yes.
that's a hope. Yeah, that's a plan, I think.
We're all still waiting. Anybody got any intel that they want to share? Because we're all still waiting for the I don't know, the fire to be lit to tell us that we've got it, but it's still very uncertain. Thank you for that. And yes, BCSDA has been, I think, a subscribe or a reader is probably the better way to put it. That you can be a reader, a free reader, but I found that the richness is much better when you are a paid subscriber. And yes, that's it's a deliberate nod to if you haven't joined Eco-Business, it's not significant in terms of its cost, and it's a really, really, really good compendium of what's going right across Asia. Really quite comprehensive and impressive. And I would like to think that it has great complementarity to what we do with ESG Snapshot, because we focus primarily on Australia here, but and we have I think we have now a direct link from ESG Snapshot directly to Eco-Business, so that people who read ESG Snapshot can actually go and have a look at what the value of the articles and the information and the events board and the jobs board actually have. Let's jump to the actual partnership and what it means for the members, because this is critical for you to understand how you can tap into this relationship. The strategic partnership that we've entered into, which is a formal MOU, is to actually collaborate on content, events, and engagement across Australia and APAC. And so one of the plans, the strategic plans, is to work up a particular program of events on a particular topic, and also to invite interested members to participate in some of the eco-business-led events, particularly on sustainable finance, because we think that there's going to be an increasing interest and opportunity attached, particularly if we get COP31, but even if we don't, there's still a volume of interest out there about what Asia is now doing in terms of acceleration towards decarbonisation, and therefore what's the financial interest of those organisations that are able to provide finance for innovation. And so there are two types of opportunity here. The first is for you to be involved with us and to come back to us, and you'll be receiving an email. All members will be getting all members will be getting an invite through Insider to register their interest to a specific or particular opportunity. But if there are members who wish to have a direct dialogue with Eco-Business, either Meaghan and or Jason, about particular interests of areas that they want to directly avail themselves. So, for example, the series on sustainable finance, there are partnerships, there are sponsorships, there are opportunities for looking at that as a direct link rather than through necessarily BCSDA. But we're looking in 2026 for anchoring that into a conversation about a topic, and then driving webinars and thought leadership through the platform that is Eco-Business, and then vice versa. So looking at what's going on through the Eco-Business lens back through the Australian portal of BCSDA, but also through webinars as well. Are there any reflections that you wanted to make, Meaghan, about the relationship specifically?
Yeah, no, I think we were very excited to go into this with BCSDA. We see Australia as a really important pivotal role in this Asia Pacific's economic growth, and that's why we have decided to go into Australia for this particular sustainable finance forum that we have called Unlocking Capital for Sustainability. I mean, for this particular forum, we hold this in partnership with the United Nations and Primary Program Finance Initiative, and they are quite excited for us to go into Australia as well. Where we'll be talking about I guess how the region will chart its way forward on accelerating the economic transition towards a sustainable future, especially seeing that Australia has really committed to quite ambitious emissions reduction targets, striving for the net zero by 2050, and also with this region being at the forefront of global climate action and the broader energy transition as well. So we welcome partnerships from your members, as well as with obviously with the association as well in general, and how we can push this conversation forward. And as you mentioned earlier as well, we are looking forward to doing very customized webinar and events as well. And the way we do that is that, if you're interested, come reach out to us. We'll kind of scope out where your gaps lie in terms of maybe convening the right people in the room, being able to also craft a right agenda for the audience of I guess the target audience that you're reaching out for, and that's where we probably excel and bring the most value add in being able to craft that conversation, topic, as well as bring the right people in the room together. And then we will then execute this event together, where we'll also follow up with, our, insights report or article in order to shed some light as to what conversations went on and how we can, kind of push that forward in progressing further. I think we've worked with the likes of South Pole, Pollination, of whom, are Australian companies as well. And I think what they value in us is being able to also reach out, to the Asia Pacific crowd, that's outside Australia, perhaps. So
Yes.
various ways that we can work together on that.
Yeah, no, it'd be very, very exciting. And one element of that will be, just going to the topic I was talking about at the top about the academy, that you also have a segment, a platform in relation to education and training, and we're very eager to connect that into our module so that the members can see what's available through your portal directly, as well. So that's one of the other elements that we're looking to include in the not too distant future. Thank you for that. Any questions from any of the members that they would like to ask at this point? Meaghan, while we're waiting, would you like to put your email address into the chat function?
Yeah, I'll do that.
And Jason, do you want to do that as well? Because then people can congratulate you on the birth of your son. No questions? All right, no problem. It's very much a I was going to say wait and see. That's the wrong expression. It's very much a stay tuned for the next exciting adventure, which could be well accelerated in the next 7 to 10 days, can I tell you? If there is an outcome, there's an outcome about COP31. My prediction is it'll happen sometime next Sunday, which is the worst possible day for it to happen. But anyway, good news or bad. Thank you so much, Meaghan. And Jason, please feel free to stay on the line. And now let's, and I'm trying to find the segue to pivot from this to a very different conversation. Pat, help me out here. What?
There's no pivot. It's
all right.
It's a hard jump cut. This is
all right.
2001, A Space Odyssey. Up goes the bone and down comes a satellite. So.
I feel like I should change to another camera and say, in other news. In welcoming Dr. Pat Norman from the University of Sydney Business School, Pat, along with Kyle and Sandra, and you can fill in their surnames, have been doing a really important piece of longitudinal studies around skills. And it's in fact insulting to call it skills because it's much more profound than that. And quite recently, or very recently, the business school invited me to sort of a teaser to the event. And it's actually Pat that did all the work. No, and if you say that back to Sandra and Kyle, I'll kill you. But at the business school, through the Sydney Executive Plus platform, they have been now, I think this is the second year that they have issued this really important understanding about how skills are developed and how skills are better understood in a very different age to the ones, dare I say, that I went through. And so I found it particularly helpful, and I cajoled Sandra, who then cajoled Pat, to come along and give us sort of a wee insight into what was released, I think only about 3 odd weeks ago. But it's really interesting if you have teams, ELT teams, and your human resources or personnel that are very interested in understanding what is the future of skills, because they've already anticipated what AI does to that. They've anticipated so much. And so hopefully with that big shout out, I will now just got to make sure I do this so that we get Pat to now turn up, because Meaghan had a challenge with her microphone, but now there we go, I fixed it. And Pat, do you want share rights?
I'll grab share rights, but I won't share.
Okay, all right.
I'll talk for a little bit, and then I can bring up the skills horizon. So
over to you.
In the chat, I'm going to post a link to the report. As Andrew said, I work in the University of Sydney Business School with professors Kai Riemer and Sandra Peter. And we've been doing this large research project on what are the kinds of skills that leaders need to deal with what we're calling the decade of disorientation. So Sydney Executive Plus is really around understanding what are the kinds of skills that leaders, senior executives of organisation boards, people in decision-making positions within organisations need to know. And part of that, to understand what that looks like over this period of time, we've been talking to now over 150 global leaders coming from a range of different industries, a range of different, we say leaders, there's political leaders, regulators, CEOs, head chefs, all kinds of different roles, like former Qantas pilots, like really interesting stuff from a diverse range of experiences. And that gives us a really rich understanding of how is the world changing at the moment? How is that shaping the business environment? And what are the kinds of things that we need to know in order to deal with that change? With last year's report, which was our inaugural report, we'd identified 5 shifts that are impacting the business environment. So those were the technology shift, so our sort of impactful technologies like artificial intelligence. Now quantum computing is sort of emerging as something that's going to shape the business environment over the next 10 years. The trust shifts are a sort of changing sense of accountability, and accountability is one of our other shifts, but sort of lowering trust in institutions and some of the challenges that presents. The accountability shift, which is around reporting, around the fact that our supply chains and our value chains and our responsibility within organizations is no longer confined within the boundaries of our organization, but actually reaches between organizations. Your classic example of that is Scope 3 reporting, where a lot of the questions that we get asked, we've got a short course for leaders on thinking about net zero for their business. And one of the questions that we're continually asked by people, particularly in accounting functions within organizations, is how do I actually deal with this idea that I can't rely on my own numbers? I need to be talking to other organizations or trusting the numbers that are coming from other organizations. What does that look like? So there's an accountability shift. There's a values shift as well that's happening that relates to sort of having more generations in work than have ever been at one time than has ever been the case ever. And I enjoy talking to some of our younger students about this because there's nothing new about young people entering the workforce. What's new is that people are retiring later, and because of that, we have really radically different expectations around what a business should stand for, why I'm coming to work, whether or not a business should align with my values, and what does that involve. For a lot of our younger employees, they want to work at a place where the business aligns with their values. And in some studies, we've seen up to 40% of young people have said, look, I've quit a job because it didn't align with my values. And that just looks radically different for people who have been in certain organizations for a longer period of time or have been in work for a longer period of time. So those are the kind of shifts that we'd identified last year. Then through our ongoing conversations that we've had with leaders over the past year since then, what's that crystallized into is a number of what we call clashes. So competing demands, one of the most obvious of these that I think a lot of people would understand is efficiency versus expertise. This has emerged with the artificial intelligence sort of rise of large language models, of ChatGPT, of Copilot. And that is, we know that we can do work more efficiently using some of these tools, but in doing so, we're eroding expertise within organizations. So it's really challenging for people going into entry-level roles, which are much easier for us to automate. That's research that's come out from Jobs and Skills Australia. Anthropic, the makers of Claude, have identified this, that entry-level roles can be automated to some degree by large language models. But in doing that, in creating that efficiency within our organization, we actually, down the line, create problems where we're eroding expertise. We're not enabling people to build that foundational expertise that they need to become our leaders in the future. So when we think about these clashes, it's not that I want efficiency or expertise. I want both in my organization. And that's something that's really challenging to balance. Some of the other clashes that we identified were around policy versus people, which sort of comes back to that values situation. Our businesses have key performance indicators, we've got targets to maintain in a business, but we also want to create flexibility for our employees. And sometimes those policies create tensions. So if I want to enable people to work from home, work remotely, there's a huge coordination cost that can involve sometimes for a business. So striking the balance between the needs of the business and the needs of the people working in that business is another tension that's emerged. Capability versus control was another one. If we want to have our most powerful if you go to the AI example, if we want to have our most powerful frontier models, that often means giving up control of our data, so sovereignty over our data, because we'll need to buy in that capability from overseas, for example. If we want to keep control of our data, that will sometimes mean giving up some of that capability and using less powerful models or models located in country. So there's sort of compromises to weigh up there for our businesses. And the last is the abundance versus attention shift, which is, I think, something that we all feel really personally. There is just this raft of information, of resources, of materials being put online, of podcasts, of news sources. And we want to understand it all, but we don't have the attention capability to do that. We've got finite amount of attention, finite amount of time. So it's really challenging for leaders to sort of be discerning and to say, what do I need to focus on right now? So we want to have all of that information. It's really valuable intelligence for our businesses, but at the same time, we have a limited amount of attention. So we've got to be discerning and curate some of those insights. So those are kind of the broad challenges, the clashes that we'd identified in this year's report. What we then do is go on to basically chart over 3 horizons. And I'm just going to share my screen, Andrew, so that we can see just what the skills horizon overall looks like. We chart 3 horizons. So is that coming through? Yeah, so we chart 3 horizons. The first is what's called the productive base. So these are the kinds of skills that are really important for us to know today. They're sort of making a difference in the business environment today. So those are things like AI fluency, thinking about generative AI for productivity. How do businesses build trust at scale is a really challenging, vexing thing, and not just businesses, but all kinds of institutions. The net zero transition is in the mix there as well. So there's a range of different things that are important at that productive base. The next range, which I like to think of projecting out over, say, 3 years or a little bit more, possibly. Some of these are coming a bit more acutely into focus now. Developmental skills. So things that businesses should be taking advantage of, particularly if they're a forward-looking business. So as opposed to the productive base where everyone needs to be doing it now, the developmental range is forward-thinking businesses are taking advantage of this today. Those are things like geopolitics. So how do we contend with the sort of crazy ruptures that are happening around the world around geopolitics and the sort of tensions happening between large, like your sort of big two, China and the United States, but also other organizations, like how is the European Union contending and bringing legislation forward that is impacting our supply chains and our value chains? How is new formations of relationships within ASEAN, for example, or in our region, shaping the way we do business in our immediate region here? So a lot of skills around geopolitics, leading complex projects, thinking about digital ethics. One that I found particularly interesting that emerged here was around civic placemaking. So the relationship between our business and the environment that we're located in. So how do we actually take a responsibility for constructing that civic environment that we're a part of inside our business? So creating a culture where people want to be, get a sense of meaning and a sense of collegiality, but also engage with the communities that we're situated in. Further out is the emerging horizon, and the 2 big ones that stood out, for me at least, on this. We are a research team, and so I'm beating this space business drum, which I'm really fascinated by. The cost of, and one of the people that we interviewed had pointed out that the cost of payload to orbit now is so cheap that actually you're looking at businesses in this country, I mean like Coles or BHP or whoever, should actually be thinking, what can we do with space business? What's our space strategy? And that's something that we're increasingly hearing from bodies like the World Economic Forum, that larger businesses should be formulating a space strategy, and maybe even some medium enterprises as well might be thinking about what can they do to leverage data that's available from space. And quantum literacy, which is something that the university has just partnered with IBM to start building capability for business leaders around what does quantum computing mean, what's the impact of that on cybersecurity, what are some of the longer term opportunities that relate to quantum technologies. So quantum sensing, for example, that enables us to detect new phenomena in the planet around in the ground, new mineral deposits, all that sort of stuff, but also modeling with quantum computing is new and very, very powerful technology. But also there's security concerns around quantum computing. It will break present day encryption sometime in the next 10 years. It's not like a sudden switch over and quantum computers are switched on and everything breaks, but it's something that forward-thinking businesses are starting to prepare for today because, for example, there's what is it called? Harvest now, decrypt later. There are a lot of people sort of hoovering up data around the globe with a view to decrypting this at some point in the future, once quantum computers reach sufficient power to do that. And those kinds of risks and threats to business are things that we need to be thinking about today. So actually, how do we protect our data for a threat that may not emerge for 10 years' time, but is actually in chain at the moment? So we'd sort of mapped out these 35 skills as being really essential for business leaders to think about over the next 5 years. The report itself gives you some techniques for thinking about these strategically within your organization, some narratives and stories and facts that sort of help you to get a grip on what are these things changing in the world. So we're really keen for people to download the report, to reach out to us, to get into conversations with us. We want to hear your perspective on a lot of these skills, and some of these stories might resonate for you, and we'd love to learn a little bit more from your members and jump into a bit of that conversation. So I've posted that into the chat, the link to the report into the chat. But please feel free to ask any questions or share the report more widely. That's sort of my brief spiel, but
good. Very good
this
spiel.
is like, normally we spend like an hour talking through.
I know you do.
How are we going to do this in about 10 minutes? So.
I know. And far more fancy technology presentation, can I tell you? Although I think Sandra and Kai need to sort of smarten up their Abbott and Costello act.
The level of performance for this year. So we have our executive preview event, and then the launch of the report was at South by Southwest Sydney, and the scale of rehearsals and sound design that goes into this sometimes is really wild.
So you all think quantum literacy is difficult. Performing on stage is
even harder.
is murder. Thank you so much for that. And yes, if you do have a question, by all means, pick up Pat's email address via the chat, which is, I think, already there, and the link, and happy, by all means, go through to him for further conversation. Yeah, I've been contemplating we might actually have some sort of workshop around it in the new year when everybody gets over the exhaustion of what this year is already provided for most people. So we'll come back to you and talk to you about how we might do that. It'd be great to actually do it at the school. Perhaps even in a hybrid format for others who can't physically attend. That's it for us today. There's 2 minutes left. Any comments, questions, anything? Anybody has a burning, Andrew, what the hell are we doing on, that you want to ask? You all know about COP?
I want to ask. I want to tell, Andrew.
Oh, tell. Marianne, tell in 30
I'm
seconds.
Telling everyone that we have our last Global Reporting Initiative GRI professional certification program happening online in December.
Ooh.
So last for the year, I should say. Last for the year.
Good.
So
what date?
December the 2nd, 3rd, 4th and 5th, so half days, and then the 8th, 9th, 10th and the 11th. So there's a series of interesting workshops and modules, including reporting with the GRI standards, reporting on human rights with the GRI standards, navigating the GRI sector standards, of which there are 4, and a really good one actually is Transparency for Tomorrow. They're all very good, but this one's particularly interesting, I think, right now, which is Transparency for Tomorrow, Decoding the Sustainability Reporting Landscape. So that's that's a 1.5 day. Yeah. So
you need more than a little lens for that one. Yeah. And I think you'll find details of those on our website, but just as importantly, go to the ZUID website, which is www.zuid.com.au. Yes.
Yep.
Thank you. And you can get further details, and I think you can also register through that platform as well.
Yeah, you can. So I'll just pop those in the chat.
Thank you so much for doing that. All right. Any other comments, questions? We've hit 1:45.
Yep. I just wanted to
Yes, Murray, hi.
I just wanted to say what a great news service Eco-Business is. Congratulate you both. It's terrific. Well done.
It has been good, hasn't it? I've learned so much about the Asian circumstance by reading that first. Yeah. And we're so excited that you've joined us. So thank you so much. All right, that's it. It's 1:45. We've hit our limit. Thank you so much for joining. Don't forget to register for the upcoming COP events. But for now, look forward to seeing you somewhere in the future. Bye for now. See ya.